So welcome to another episode of Family Business Legacies. I'm joined here by a dynamic entrepreneur, part of a legacy family business that's been in the UAE now for almost 45 years. Kunal, it's a pleasure to have you for one of our episodes.
Thank you for having
Thanks
me.
for taking time out.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
So have I got that right? It's about 45 years, is that right? Maybe you could tell us about how it all started here.
Yeah, so I think in UAE we've been 35 years, but the family business started in 74 back in Mumbai.
Wonderful.
So yeah, it's been over 45 years, I would say, since we incorporated.
Wonderful.
I moved here when I was 2 years old, back in 1985. My father actually came initially here and set up a garment manufacturing business.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing that back in Mumbai as well. And there was a lot of issues to export garments from there. So he found the free zone, he heard about it. So on the way to London, he stopped by us. He said, let me pop in, see what's happening. And then he met Sultan Sulaim and Sheikh Rashid, and they basically made him sign the lease. They convinced him. And he said, okay, I come back in a couple of months and you'll build the facility for me and I'll bring my machines and my workers and we'll start. And
Happy days, yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah. It was a lot easier back then, was it? Or was there a lot more obstacles? How does one look at it? Just trying to set up in Dubai, UAE 35 years ago with just desert.
I think every
no Jebel Ali free zone at the time, was there?
It was
just started.
It had started that year. Yeah. 85, when my father set up, was the same year it started.
Yeah.
85, Emirates started, Airlines. Jebel Ali free zone started, and my father started. Wow. All the same year.
And I understand he was one of the first.
Correct. He was the first.
He was the first in Jebel Ali free zones. That's, you have to go back in the history of Dubai, UAE to understand that, which is one of the biggest industrial free zones in the country. So having the first warehouse, first building,
garment manufacturing facility, which they built for us for like a build to suit, and then we started our production. And then, of course, it was my father did a lot of hard work. I wouldn't see him for days. He would travel a lot. So I guess it's when you said challenges, of course, you have challenges then and you have challenges now. I don't think they say like Rome wasn't built in a day. So every thing has its own challenges.
So maybe you could share a little bit about growing up. I always ask this question to every next-gen entrepreneur I meet. Mm-hmm. What things did you pick up from your parents when they were building the business, being a young man? And I believe your sister was also, observing at the time as well, next gen. What did you pick up from parents when it comes to business and entrepreneurship?
So I think I picked up one of the main key things that I picked up was hard work, perseverance, and also value for money. Never take anything for granted. And if you're fortunate enough, you should always give back. You should always give back to the community. Mm-hmm. And this is the things that I've been trying to instill in my kids as well.
So it's a philosophy of making money, but also giving back.
Absolutely.
Is that the core?
Right.
And you've been ingrained with that from a young age from parents. So it's not all about the money then?
Not really. I think that's a part of it, right? You have to have a balance, I guess. Yeah. So that's a part of it, making money, but you got to enjoy your life and you got to give back. That should be your legacy. I think giving back to the less fortunate.
When I was doing some research on the family, my figures may be incorrect. I don't know, but maybe a few years ago, you get the rich list, Forbes list, Indian list, and it was quoting the family group having a net worth of over $550 million at the time. I'm not going to get into numbers today, but what's that like for a next-gen member having that type of responsibility when it comes to the future of looking after that and putting it in a better place by the time your children are at the right age to look after such a legacy?
I guess it's a lot of hard work and a lot of expectation. So
there's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation. So you gotta manage that well. I believe you just have to work hard. It's for me, every venture that I've done, I've realized more and more, and it's become more and more solidified that hard work and perseverance always, is the core of anything that you start, whether it's your family business, whether it's a new venture that you start, and those values have been ingrained in me. So I guess with hard work and dedication and perseverance and never giving up, you just have to try that one more time, again and again, and eventually things work out.
So did you get to a point where you thought garments is not for me? I mean, you're an entrepreneur in your own right. So some next gen members get groomed by the chairman, the founder, the senior family members to take over the existing business. While there's others that go, yeah, I don't want to be in manufacturing. I don't want to be in the garment business, textile business. I want to do my own thing. You've had a bit of both, haven't you, in your career?
Correct.
So can you talk us through what happened for you with the family business and then being an entrepreneur in your own right with other ventures?
So how it happened was I finished my education in American University in Dubai. I was in Los Angeles, UCLA for a little while. I was in London. I came back and my father tells me, I don't want you to pursue the garment division anymore. I'm handling this with the team and infrastructure that we have. But why don't you take these drawings, and we're building a building there, and that's going to be a warehousing facility. And he said, go figure it out. So I show up on site the first day as my first job. No information, no background, our typical, first gen.
How old were you at the time?
I was 22.
Okay.
So I got the drawings, I got the contractor's contract. I know what we're paying him. Let me go analyze. So I sat on site, spoke to the contractors, did all that was I could in those initial days. Then I came back to the office. I discussed with my dad, what exactly do you want me to do? How do you want me to manage this? Okay, what's my job going to be like? He said, manage this project, make sure they deliver on time. So I said, okay, I have my target.
And that was it.
That's it. That was
there was no other job role, which you do responsibility.
Nothing.
Thrown in the deep end, yeah?
Thrown completely in the deep end. Yeah. I'm a business major. I didn't have a clue about construction, project management, nothing. But I guess that's where the beauty is. Today, after 18 years of working in the business, I'm a very good project manager. I can read drawings. I can understand contracts. I do tenders myself all the time. So I guess you get thrown in the deep end, but then you learn. When you're born, you don't talk, but you learn how to talk, then you start to walk. So I guess that was the way I learned. And I'm grateful because that was a very steep learning curve. In 1 or 2 years, I was building many bigger facilities and I guess it worked out well.
Did you ever feel like quitting? Or thought, can't do this?
I mean, there are always days that you would have it, but then those days you just have to move on. Like I said, you have to really persevere. That's one of the most important qualities that I learned very early on. Coming back to what you said, what did I do in my personal stuff? So I worked for about 12, 13 years in the business in many different divisions. Started off as almost a site supervisor, grew up to GM in different divisions, and then I had this passion for food. So in 2012, I set up a couple of restaurants, some in partnership, some on my own, and one in partnership with my wife. So I was running 3 different ventures. And those...
What made you get into the F&B foodie business?
Well, at that time, I saw there's a big demand in Dubai for food. This was 2012. The financial crisis was just almost getting over. 2011, 12, 13. Rentals were low. I guess I thought that there would be a good uptake. So I saw an opportunity. I used to study in UCLA, like I said, and there wasn't any good Spanish restaurant in UAE. And I really wanted to bring a very, very good Spanish restaurant to Dubai. So that's how that opportunity I saw, I grasped it. And we opened the first one and was very successful. 5 years later, I can say I sold it to Western Hotel. They loved the brand, so they bought it from us. But again, it was a lot of hard work, very steep learning curve. Again, I didn't know anything about food, but I guess it all comes together. You meet your.
So, what tips would you give next gen entrepreneurs if they've got an idea or they're passionate about something? What should be some of the steps they need to consider going from idea to launching, growing, maybe even selling the business? Now with your experience, having done this 3-4 times, what tips would you give?
So to the next gen, I would definitely say you need to be really sure you want to do it. You have to be not 110% committed. You need to be 200% committed because it's going to take a lot. You're going to have a lot of hard work. You're going to have sleepless nights. You're going to have stress. You're going to have fights if you're married, with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your parents, with your partners. And above it all, you just need to make sure you can hold it all together. It's all about holding it all together and just moving on to the next day and doing the next thing and not giving up. It takes a lot of effort, and starting a new business is not easy. I can really appreciate what our parents have been through and our grandparents starting from scratch. It really is a lot of hard work and takes all of your energy. I would say you should start younger so you can make more mistakes.
Fantastic.
If you don't have a family, it's even better because you can give it 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day,
No
and
distractions.
Exactly, and really make it happen. And it's like a baby. The business in the beginning, year or two, is really needs a lot of attention and time. And the other thing is you need to know how to do everything. You can't say, if you work a corporate job, you can't say, oh, I'm in marketing, I only handle marketing. As an entrepreneur, you need to do everything. You need to be the PRO, you need to be the HR person, find people, you need to give the bad news if you want to fire somebody, you need to raise money for the venture, you need to do the operations. You have to do everything. This learning curve is extremely steep. So you need to really be sure you're committed to do it. It takes a lot of stuff.
What about, like, when people study, they go to university, do their MBA, business school, whatever it may be, and you're taught, you must have a robust business plan, you must do your research, feasibility, due diligence, whatever it may be, all these buzzwords. Did you do any of that when you started the restaurant business?
Of course, that's absolutely important, but I don't think it's, I think schools and many other people just overcomplicate it with all these things. Of course, you have to do your business plan or your financial numbers. You have to know financially it makes sense. But overthinking is also a disease. I know people who overthink, and then they miss the opportunity. So I guess, yes, you have to do your numbers, and then if it works and you feel, I always believe in gut feel. If your gut says it's right, you feel that you can do it, and you see the opportunity, then you should go for it. I always feel.
Did you try work out everything on your own, or was your father a sounding block? Was your parents a sounding block to go, right, this is what I'm working on now? Were you bouncing things off them as well, or was there that inner part of you to go, I've got something to prove here, so I'll figure this out myself, make it successful, then say, hey, look, this is what I've done?
Yeah.
How did it work for you?
So of course, it was one part that, yes, I wanted to prove myself in my own right. But taking advice from someone is always appreciated, and it's never negative. So I would always take advice. So I would, of course, have discussions with my father on what we are planning to do, how we are scaling things, what we are doing. And he could only share from his experience because he's never done F&B. So he could just say what he had done in the business and how he, mitigated certain risks. And that advice was very appreciated. I bounced things off a lot of my friends, discussed with them, and they would give their insights. And generally, then you talk to your customers, and once you're open, you can talk to your customers and get certain advice from them on the actual operational and customer experience journey. So
with your experience now, if you were doing it all over again, would you do anything differently this time around?
Specifically in the F&B, I would probably go for smaller venues. I think they're more intimate, they're more cozy, they're more manageable. So I would do smaller, more bespoke with a higher customer experience. I think things that are very big and very grand seem to be go out of fashion very quickly.
Right.
So I would call it that authentic, smallish experience. I would also say, so one of my ventures actually failed, Bazaar. I closed it after 18 months of operation. So another lesson that I learned is although you need hard work, you need perseverance, and you need to really get up every day and do what you have to do. At one point of time, you need to realize when to bite the bullet and cut the loss. Right?
How do you know that? How do you know when that, some people have this inner belief to go, it will work, I'm passionate about it, keep going, you're losing money, it's not working. When's that time to go? No.
So for me, again, I really believe in gut feel, like I said. So I felt that over the 18 months, I tried everything. I changed the managers, I changed the business, we kept new marketing people, we changed the food, we changed the chef. I had exhausted everything that I could do. And the sales were sort of stable, but I realized that if I continue this, I'm not going to make any money out of it. I might continue at the same sales, but if I don't make anything at the end of 5 years, why am I doing all this hard work and effort? And it was a real effort. And we were breaking even or losing money in some months. So I realized it's not worth my effort. So I got that gut feeling that doesn't work, close it. So then I took a call to close it. So that's a very important point.
Was that painful?
Very painful. Hurts your ego.
Yeah, yeah.
It does.
Because it feels like failure, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But again, for viewers watching this, Kunal's managed to, he picked himself up from that, but then you went again, didn't you? Then you built another
Exactly.
F&B business.
So yeah, I've built 3. So open, closed, sold. So you have to go move on. So some ventures will never work, and that's life. Something really works, something doesn't work, and there's always ups and downs. If anybody says life is like that, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So how did you then balance being an entrepreneur at building the F&B businesses, and then looking at the succession plan of the legacy business? Whether it's garments evolving into property and so on. How did you balance that, working with your father still and building these businesses?
That was quite challenging. It took me a long time to find this work-life balance because I was married. My wife really supported me. She was my strength, I would say. She used to help me a lot on the F&B side. Mm-hmm. So then I could be more on the family business side. So I had 2 roles, and it's quite tough to do 2 things at once, I would say. The advice I would give is give it your best in one business, mm-hmm. and then probably move on to the next, or initially try to set up your own thing so you have something to fall back on, mm-hmm. and then do your family business, or vice versa. Once you're just established, then you start something that you want on the side. But doing 2 businesses at once, which take a lot of your time, I would not recommend it. It takes a lot out of you.
Because we've come across cases with family business, having advised many in the region, where an entrepreneur is building something, but there's pressure from the senior members to say, hey, what about this? We've built this over here, and maybe your father, mother, uncle, whoever is saying, well, I need an extra pair of hands.
Yeah.
So they're also thinking about handing over the baton to someone in the future, but at the same time, they feel they've lost one of the next generation. So that's why I ask, outside of work-life balance, how did you manage to overcome that? Because you have, and one of few people I know that have had the opportunity to build businesses in right, but still have the unity and be together at a family level with the legacy business.
So I think I was lucky in the way that my father is still young. He's 65. Mm-hmm. I started these businesses in 2012. So he was even younger. He was only 57, 58. Mm-hmm. He wasn't ready to, let go yet. Yes. So he still he was
still young. A lot of energy, turning up every day.
Yeah. He wanted to run the business. So in that way, I was grateful that he was there. So he was running everything. And if I was missing sometimes and doing my private thing on the side, he didn't mind it because he was there full time. So I was lucky that way. But yeah, if your father's a little bit older and wants to really hand over, then of course you can't do something on the side. Then you have to be with him and support him and be with the family. But it worked out well for me.
That's good. And what about working with siblings? What's that like? I mean, you've got a unique case study as a family where sometimes culturally in this part of the world, if a daughter, when a daughter gets married of the family, they move into their own family. I think what's unique is you've got a sister who has gone into another family, but she's still part of the family legacy.
Absolutely, she is.
I mean, how did that come about? What was the thinking around that? Because it is unique. Most of the time, people walk away from their family legacy and their family business and then end up doing their own thing with whoever they marry into.
Yeah.
So how did that work out?
So my sister started with her own fashion brand, and she was doing that for about 10, 12 years. And then she joined the family business in 2014. So again, it goes back to family values, right? So we've always been taught hard work, keep yourself busy, work is worship, these kind of values. So it's also ingrained in her. So she didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. She wanted to work. So in 2014, when I was pursuing a little bit of my F&B, she stepped in as well to help the family and help my father. And yeah, I mean, we have a great working relationship. I think we understand different facets of the business. So she handles more the HR, the marketing, the soft side of the business, and I handle more the real estate, the property management, the operations. I think it's a perfect fit because I could never achieve what she has achieved on the HR and people relations skills and internal training and bringing that.
And what tips would you give for members who are working with siblings? Working with parents is one thing, working with siblings is another. So how do you get that right? What tips would you give?
So there's a benefit that I have a sister, right? If there are 2 brothers, I don't know how that pan out. I've heard a lot of different stories with 2 brothers. But with me, we are completely different personalities. And that works because she does, like I said, what she does and I do. We have separate jobs and separate roles. So I would say define a role and trust that person to execute that role effectively. And I mean, just have a monthly meeting or a weekly meeting, however your business needs to be. But I think that role separation and non-interference is very important for people to develop their own individual personality.
Yes, I like that. So tell us more about how the family business has evolved now with where you are today and looking into the future. Again, very unique, your family, understand with you and your sister being the brainchild of these new ideas, are making a huge transition.
Absolutely.
And could you talk us through how that came about? A lot of family businesses are stuck with their legacy business. They're emotionally attached to it. They find it difficult to let go. They're not prepared to make changes. We've always done it this way. And then the next generation come along with some bright ideas to restructure, do things differently, and you've done it. So, how did that start, and what were some of the challenges to make that happen and now create this new fund that you've created?
Right. So I'll give you a history of the family. So we set up in '85 in Dubai. At that time, the business was garment manufacturing. We were producing shirts, pants, exporting to Europe and US and UK.
And that expanded to about 12 countries, is that right, at one time?
There was, we had about 4,000 or 5,000 people, about 17, 18 factories.
Fantastic.
So at the core of it, we were always real estate owners, because whenever we decided to do a factory, we would build the real estate. It was a custom built factory, and then we put in the machines in there and operated. So when in the early 2000s, the WTO put a quota restriction from the UAE that you couldn't export enough, we felt that we had a limit. We couldn't expand the business anymore. So we said, what are we going to do with all these extra lands that we've taken, the facilities that we've built, and in anticipation that next year our business would be bigger, we're already building facilities, warehouses, logistics centers, etc., for our own garments. So we said, what are we going to do with them? So we just started talking around in our network and stuff, and somebody else said, oh, my business still isn't affected. I want some space. Can I rent the space from you? We said, of course, sure, please.
So you weren't looking for it, it found you.
It actually almost found us. So we said, okay, that's amazing. So, okay, let's rent this facility to this gentleman. And then slowly but surely, we started doing build to suit, and we started expanding more and more. As that business started shrinking, we started going more into logistics. It was kind of like a natural progression into the logistics and industrial space. And then we actively started pursuing more and more sale and leasebacks, got into with the broker network, and started really putting out mandates that we want to invest in the region, because in 99, 2000, the real estate market had opened up. So then we started actively.
But you kept focus. You haven't diversified into all aspects of real estate. No. You've kept it logistics based, commercial related type properties.
Warehouses,
is that right?
Logistics, fulfillment centers.
Yeah. Why is that? Is that because it gives good returns? I mean, because there's always good occupancy? What is it?
It's the return profile. It's the core of Dubai, I would say. The Jebel Ali Free Zone contributes 20% to Dubai GDP. The infrastructure of Jebel Ali Free Zone is world class. The biggest ships call to port there. That kind of infrastructure cannot be replicated by any other GCC port. Yes, it can be, but it will take a long time, and it's still not been done. So we feel this is the middle of East and West. That's the thing. And Dubai is the hub of the Middle East and Africa. So it's a big, what would I say? It's a big hub.
Correct. And that's grown now to, if you don't mind me asking, what sort of size in terms of the portfolio of number of properties, whether they're your own or whether for others, what's the structure there?
So then eventually we came up to form a DIFC based real estate fund focusing on logistics and industrial assets, which was set up 2 years ago. In this fund, we have about 280 million dirhams worth of assets, and the fund dividends 8% per annum to investors who want to contribute and do it. And the reason we set up the fund was to capitalize on the downturn. As we know, in the last 2 years, real estate market is a bit slow.
And we'll make sure that the details show up below for the fund. What's the name of the fund?
Manrre
Fund. So we'll make sure the details pop up now. And also with the family legacy business, Palmon Group, we'll make sure that the website details come up so people can find out more about the sort of family behind it. So with this fund now, if someone's watching this and they're looking to invest, It doesn't sound that risky to me compared to other options in the marketplace.
Not at all.
Reasonable yield.
Niche assets, very specialized. And as I said, Jebel Ali free zone, where the assets are DIP, Jebel Ali. We have it on all the free zones. Very stable corporate tenants, Al Shaya, Deliveroo, Namshi.
That must be increasing with all the e-commerce businesses.
Absolutely. Wow. E-commerce is only set to increase in percentage.
So let me get this right. So you've taken your assets that you've built over time, and you've put some of those into a fund.
Correct.
And at the same time, you're raising more money into the fund
to acquire additional assets.
And then grow that fund.
Exactly.
And then you're guaranteeing an 8% return per
annum.
Correct. Okay. And that's paid out what, quarterly? Quarterly. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And how's it going? How's it going in terms of getting the message out there and getting the brand out there for the fund and getting people interested?
It's going very well. We started last year, and then we set up the whole legal structure. We did all the fund documents in compliance with DFSA and DIFC, and we started fundraising a couple of months ago.
And that's at the highest level of regulation, yes, in order to have such a fund.
Correct. And DIFC, there is a QIF fund which needs to be DFSA approved, which is the Financial Services Authority. So we have external fund manager, we have external fund administrator, external auditors, independent investment committee, independent board, etc. So all the compliance is fully met.
And at the moment, is it very much Dubai centric as a fund, or is there a strategy to acquire assets in other parts of the UAE or even internationally?
So currently the strategy is UAE centric. Our expertise lies in UAE, and that's why we're focusing on the warehouse industrial space in the UAE.
Great.
Eventually, we might go as far as the GCC, because every fund has to have its specific target and specific focus. If an investor wants exposure to European real estate, he'll go to a European fund manager who has exposure to that. He wouldn't want a UAE fund manager with experience in the UAE to give him guidance on investing in a Europe fund. So we're focusing on the UAE and the GCC.
So where do you see this all going? Let's get to 2030, 10 years from now, looking back, what's happening in the family business, the group, the funds? What's the vision?
So the vision is to grow this fund. I would say it would be this fund and probably one or two other funds. So this fund would focus on warehousing, logistics, industrial. We probably reach 1 or 2 billion dirhams in the next 10 years in assets under management. We would then subsequently probably launch a separate fund maybe for the GCC, or another fund focusing on a separate asset class. Probably it could be more niche. It could be maybe owning data centers or retail is very distressed. Probably buy a couple of retail assets and repurpose them. So we've been doing this a lot, buying some retail assets, repurposing it for a dark kitchen, a cloud kitchen. So there is a lot of value add that we can provide with our experience. So probably there would be a second and a third fund.
And is the plan to list one day? With the new regulation and new things that have happened in the UAE for family businesses also to be able to list?
I don't think we have it in the plans to list at the current situation. I don't know if things will change in the future. But we might, currently we have a 5-year fund. It's a closed-ended fund. We might convert the fund to open-ended, so then it's perpetual.
Great. So what other advice could you give people who are looking to look at the liquidities there, money's flowing in from their family business, but they're now looking to set up maybe a family office, or they're looking at an investment strategy? Could you give any tips there on what things to consider?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you should have a balanced portfolio. So when I set up my private bank account, I was doing mainly debt. So I didn't have, when you're younger, you're working so hard in the business, you don't have time to actually, look at the portfolio. So I would say probably go into bonds and A grade, B grade bonds. They'll give you a nice 4-5% return. I would also say you should lever up a little bit. So if your private bank gives you the opportunity, so you can then enhance the yield. So I took a 40-50% leverage, got 8-9% on very stable bonds, JP Morgan and stuff like that. I would say put a little bit of money in equities. REITs is another thing that I invest in quite a lot. So I bought a lot of Singaporean REITs, UK-backed REITs when Brexit happened. So those are all up 30%. Singaporean REITs are up about 40-50%, like Mapletree, etc. So I would say REITs, debt and some equity.
Very good. So what do you do in your spare time then?
I'm an avid foodie, so I love to eat, go out with friends, enjoy a great meal. I took that passion and then I started restaurants as well. So I was really serious about food. The other thing that I really like to do is drive road trips. So there's a group of us who go for every year a different country, and we drive for 8 or 9 days, about 3,000 to 4,000 miles. That's a great experience. It's just boys driving cars.
Sorry, girls.
Driving cars, looking at the beautiful scenery.
Sounds great. So does it mean you've given up on building F&B businesses for the future then?
Not really. We are in the midst of opening a new F&B venture, which would be more online only. So we do it from our existing facilities. It would be a brand that will come up online and only delivery.
That's where it's going, isn't it?
That is. Yeah.
I've noticed more and more in Dubai now, like the big restaurants are closing down or they're repurposing their structure with kitchens with a very small front end.
Correct.
And now it's all about delivery to the home.
Right. So if you have the infrastructure, let's say you have a restaurant and you have the kitchen and you have the team and you know that you're going to have a dip in the afternoon, you could create a new brand with the same team, different menu, different name online, and then push your sales and delivery, get 10, 15, 20% more. So that's what we're planning to do, is launch a couple of brands that will be online only.
And there's always a market out there for a new niche category in food. It's not saturated, is it? I mean, there's always something you can do.
It is saturated. It's how you advertise online, how you push Instagram ads, Facebook, everything's online nowadays. What kind of deals do you do with Deliveroo, Uber Eats, the delivery portals? If you have a good team who knows about online ordering and online marketing, you can make anything successful.
Last question I've got for you, we'll wrap up, is when it comes to the next generation now. You're married, you have 2 kids, and you think about their future, and you think of the family structure. What's in your mind when it comes to continuity and them? Is it, well, we're a wealthy family, funds already set up, they're all giving you great returns, so they don't have everything to do? Or is it, well, we've got the support for you, but you go and do your own thing. You unleash their talent in a different way. Have you thought about that with your wife on what that could look like in the next 20, 30 years?
We discuss it a lot, but we don't know how, of course, kids are the individual beings and how they would turn out. But what we want to really instill in them is the values that we were instilled with, which is gratitude. Don't take things for granted. Hard work, perseverance, dedication, and giving back. This is very important for our family. And I think if you have those values and you're born and brought up with them, like I said, my sister works, I work, parents work, my mother works, my wife works, everybody works. So if you're brought up with that values, I think eventually when they come in, if they come to my business or the fund or not, or in the family business, I think they will have a solid backing that they need to work, and that's the purpose of their life.
So do you think people get to a stage where when one becomes a wealthy family business and has a good family office, and it's not about the money anymore, do you feel it is all about giving back? Do you think that's why a lot of families start building foundations?
I think it's a lot about fulfillment, because you can be very successful and you can chase that another $100 million deal and you'll have a couple of more zeros in your bank account, but will you really be fulfilled? I think when you
it's
give
all about
back,
being happy.
Yeah,
yes.
I think when you give back and you see how you've really affected somebody's life and that human connection is there, I think that that's something very special. And no matter how much money you have, you cannot get that.
So don't forget to watch some of the other shows on the channel. Next Gen Entrepreneur Show, also Family Business Experts. And we've got lots of other great people we're going to be interviewing this year for Family Business Legacies. You've got a fantastic structure. Absolutely applaud you and your family for what you've achieved. What a great balance that you've got there of protecting the legacy, reinventing yourselves, looking at the future with the fund concept, and who knows where it could take you next. I'm sure it will evolve. And we really appreciate your time. And thank you very much. Don't forget to leave your comments and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to check out Kunal's website and the fund if you want to know more about investing in it. Thanks for watching, and thanks, Kunal.
Thank you.